Can you explain to me the difference between the Dingir and the Igigi?
Okay, the Dingir are the righteous ones or the rocket ship. You follow? And you had beings who were over the rocket ships who were called the Dingir. Excuse me, the Igigi. The Igigi, the ones over the rocket ship. They manned the planet ship Nibiru. All right? They never incarnated here into the planet. The Igigi. When they were manning that ship. That's who Enlil was in contact with. All right? The Dingir are also just called the righteous one. Sometimes their names are used interchangeable because they're both etheric beings. Sometimes the names are used interchangeable. You know, other times the Igigi are just talking about those righteous ones who manned it. All right? Not exactly. All right? You have to remember, all these are titles that different beings could occupy. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. We're just talking about the thrones, who are the beings over the cherubim and the seraphim. All right? Okay. I'm going to explain what I'm talking about. All right? Sometimes you had cherubim or seraphim who were elevated to that status as a throne. Right? So at that time, that cherubim would be a throne. Other times you can say the thrones aren't cherubim because they aren't. Those are just positions or titles different beings hold. And sometimes they use interchangeable. Like you can say a throne and mean a cherubim. Sometimes you say cherubim but don't mean a throne. So it's important not to get so caught up in the different titles of beings because they can get you confused a little bit. So, you understand what I'm saying?
So in other words, when you're saying Dingir, you're just speaking of a being that's considered a righteous one.
Yes.
And when you're speaking of an Igigi, it's a being that manned the ship, or
they man the build,
or a throne, or whatever.
It can be. That's what I mean. The titles are interchangeable.
Okay.
At one time, Marduk was called a seraphim. Another time, he's called one of the Igigi. Another time, he's called one of the thrones.
Okay, but the Dingir and the Igigi never incarnated. They were always the Etherians. Unless
they incarnated. Because again, like Murdoch, who became an Igigi, who also incarnated. But when it's speaking about the Igigi, you're specifically speaking about those beings who are over the ships. Yeah, while the Anunnaki, remember, it was 900 of them, okay? 300 came down as seraphim under Enlil. 300 came down under Enki. And you had 300 who stayed up in the crafts and manned the crafts, who were called the Igigi. All right? Now, if one of those Igigi came down, then that didn't make him not an Igigi any longer. He just acquired another title.
Okay.
You follow? Just like you can have a policeman, and if you go up to be a sergeant, are you still a policeman, but you just acquired another title or rank? You follow? And that that sergeant can still say, I get this title and become a regular policeman again too. So these are all these titles interchanged for what position that being took at that time. All right, so those aren't really, again, these titles aren't really people or persons. They're just a broad title for an individual, what they were doing at that time or what position they had attained.
Okay.
And sometimes we get confused and thinking that these are Gigi and that's an actual person when it's just a title of that person. All right? And that gets us sometimes confused, even like with the title Anu. All right? When Anu went and left the planet Earth, never to return, and he became Eliun El, sometimes his sons were later referred to as Anu or Eliun El, because they became the Most High to that person who was speaking at the time or saw them. They saw Enlil as the Most High. And to separate it, they said Eliun El or Eliun El to reference his father. You follow? So those are all just different names which attributed different positions or titles or points of interest they held at that moment.
Okay.
All right.
Rahubat. This is a quick question, I guess. You had mentioned that time goes in a circle.
Correct.
So does that mean that there is no beginning and or no end? And
yes. Yes, there is. Okay, in any circle, all right, there is a beginning. And to create the circle, you draw it around and you meet the 2 points. All right? So only the being who creates that circle knows where the 2 points meet. And that point will be a glitch, which is how beings are able to step in and out of time at different points because they know where the glitch is in time. The universe works the same way, which is how beings are able to travel many light years in a matter of, much shorter time because they know where this circle of the universe is connected and they're able to manipulate that glitch in time and bend time and space. But only a being who's inside the circle, who's not looking from the outside, they don't know it. So we're trapped inside the circle of time. But the beings who exist outside of our realm, who aren't governed by our sun, moon, and stars, who were there when that circle of time that we live in was created, and they know what points to hit to break that circle up. Thus, they're able to travel and over great leaps and bounds or great moments in time, in much shorter distances, as the planet ship Nibiru does at times. All right?
In the new morning prayer, it talks about
The what prayer?
the new morning prayer.
Okay.
It was from one of the letters. It talked about the umshumgal of Bazu as well as the Igigi. Well, my first question is, you already explained who the Igigi was. It was titled, but in the prayer it says, "May the Igigi bless you." It's talking to Anu. I thought if he is, the Most High, how can the Igigi bless him?
Okay. If you read, can't remember what book it was. It come to me. But again, Anu, the physical Anu, the ninth one that we see in the Holy Tablets, has been explained to us by our master teacher, Dr. Malachi York, was a member of the Igigi. All right? He wasn't over the Igigi. You had, Anu was ninth in line. So you had previously who beings who were above Anu. All right? If you go look at the descendancy chart, it's in Jesus' guidebook. And you'll start seeing how Anu came from a descendancy of different lines of different Anus who at one time or another were above him. And now are still, when you talk about the first one, also called the furthest, Ane, who is still above all that. So we have to get out again that Anu is God concept, quote unquote, and is the all-powerful, the greatest that we would get the concept of, through religion. Anu is a physical being who had parents and had beings over him at time. And remember, Anu had to raise up and defeat Alelu and took the rulership, they took the title of Anu. So it stands to reason that if Anu had to take the title from someone else, at one point Anu was not the Most High. You follow? He was a physical being, a very powerful one who we give all respect due, being the Most High in our cycle. But there were beings above Anu at different times. And he was a prominent member amongst the Igigi.
Okay, and my next question is, who is the umshumgal and where is Bazu?
Where's the second part? I didn't catch the second part.
Okay, and another part of the prayer, it says, may the umshumgal of Bazu praise you.
Absu.
It says Bazu.
Bazu? If it says Bazu, I'm not sure exactly what.
I had a prayer in the car. Maybe it's a typo or whatever.
Okay, it should be
but,
the Absu.
It was like an updated version of the prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be Absu.
Well, I don't want to say it should be Absu. I know what Absu means. I never heard of the Badzu. I don't want to say it's incorrect. I'm not familiar with it. But when you talk about the umshumgal, which means literally great flying serpents, all right, those are what we were taught to be the cherubims or the disagreeable race of angelic beings. Okay, those are the ones that Enlil commanded.
Okay.
All right. And with that, we're going to close class for the night. We'd like to thank everyone for coming out. We enjoyed it. Hope you all enjoyed it as well. Go out with this on your mind this week. Free our master teacher, Reverend Dr. Marcus York. That's the end in which we teach, and our mission up here, and also to raise souls, the 144,000 for the coming of the Messiah. So we thank everybody. Have a safe trip home. Wadu.